In the heart of a lavish embassy gala, Royal Guard Matt Thompson shatters the evening's elegance with a jaw-dropping exposé, unveiling James Collins's alleged ties to an international scandal. Gasps echo through the crowd as the room quakes under the weight of deceit. But what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. In the heart of the bustling metropolis that is Washington, D.C., the British Embassy stands as a bastion of elegance and tradition, its facade a testament to the long-standing diplomatic ties between two great nations. Within its storied walls, the Royal Guard, Matt Thompson, begins his day with a practiced air of calm and dutiful precision. The rhythmic click of polished leather boots on marbled floors echoes through the grand halls, a comforting reminder of order and discipline. His uniform, vibrant and meticulously maintained, stands as a symbol of his unwavering commitment to duty, a visual reassurance to all who pass through the embassy's doors. As the early morning light filters through the embassy's towering stained glass windows, casting kaleidoscopic patterns on the floors, Matt finds himself thrust abruptly into an unsettling scenario. In his peripheral vision, he catches sight of James Collins, the foreign officer whose reputation for eccentricity and unorthodox methods has made him a curiously polarizing figure within diplomatic circles. James approaches with an air of casual authority, a disconcerting juxtaposition to his controversial reputation. His approach is swift and bears an undercurrent of urgency that sets Matt's instincts on high alert. Without the usual pleasantries, James dispenses with formality, launching directly into his curious proposition. He insists that Matt take part in covertly removing an undisclosed package from the embassy grounds, an unimaginable breach of protocol and trust. The request is wrapped in an implicit promise of future favors, suggesting a web of influence and manipulation that chills Matt to his core. Initially, Matt is stunned into silence, the audacity of the request hanging heavily in the air between them. However, the initial shock swiftly gives way to a rising tide of anger. Each word from James is laden with the arrogance of someone who views rules as negotiable and integrity as expendable. Matt's face remains a mask of composure, his training and professionalism overriding his instant emotional reaction. Yet internally, a churning mix of emotions bubbles forth, anger morphing into a deep-seated hatred not just for James's suggestion, but for the broader implications it represents. Corruption. The word reverberates in Matt's mind with an unsettling resonance. In the sanctity of the embassy, a place synonymous with ethical responsibility and international diplomacy, such a proposition feels like an acidic taint. Isolated in their quiet corner of the hall, Matt's gaze meets James's, and in that penetrating look, Matt conveys an unspoken defiance. It is a silent battleground, where morals clash with misguided ambition. Unable to acquiesce to such unethical behavior, Matt's resolve hardens. Despite the power dynamics at play, he understands that complicity is not an option. His position as a royal guard is not only ceremonial, but deeply rooted in trust and honor. This silent moment of confrontation sets a series of personal vows alight within Matt, a commitment to uphold the integrity that the embassy embodies, to confront this brewing storm with the moral fortitude demanded by his role. In the wake of James's departure, the halls feel different to Matt. The air, once charged with history and dignity, now seems contaminated by the insinuation of malevolence. Yet, rather than yielding to despair, Matt fortifies his spirit, driven by the certainty that justice, though temporarily clouded, must emerge unscathed. His mission has evolved. It is now not only to protect, but to cleanse, to shine a light on shadows cast by unchecked power. And so, Matt's day continues, his duties unchanged yet profoundly reframed by the chilling revelation thrust upon him at dawn. The atmosphere in the embassy the next day was charged with an unusual buzz, an undercurrent that rippled through the typically stoic corridors like a gust of wind teasing the edge of a storm. The previous day's incident had ignited a spark of electric curiosity among the staff, usually entrenched in predictable routines. The news of James Collins's audacious demand of Matt Thompson spread with the swiftness of wildfire, sending tendrils of intrigue through every department and social circle within the embassy's walls. Each whispered speculation seemed to magnify the pace at which curiosity grew. Was it a test of character? A careless ploy? Or was there a more sinister purpose beneath its surface? To most, James was a figure entwined with enigmatic allure and eccentric behavior. But this was out of the ordinary, even for him. Theories flourished as snippets of hushed conversations drifted through the air, like invisible threads knitting together a tapestry of conjecture. Each member of staff seemed eager to pick apart the potential motives, like moths drawn inexorably to the flame of scandal. Amidst this brewing storm, Matt stood resolute yet inwardly conflicted. For him, the edges of this mystery were beginning to coalesce into a shadowy form. The seed planted by James's demand gnawed at him, refusing to be relegated to the recesses of his mind. As a guardian of propriety and duty at the embassy, Matt felt compelled to understand the full scale of what lay beneath, driven by a burgeoning sense of responsibility and a simmering ire. Duty had always been his guiding star, yet now it beckoned him into murky waters. Matt commenced his quiet investigation with the tenacity that had defined his military career, sifting through conversations, watching, listening. A silent observer, he pieced together the web entwining James. Documents, casual remarks, even fleeting glances shared between James and hitherto unnoticed guests at the embassy, all became part of a growing understanding. The path was neither straight nor well lit, but Matt navigated it with a dogged determination sharpened by the urgency of his purpose. His findings unveiled a disconcerting picture. James was ensnared in the traps laid by an insidious foreign lobby exerting pressure on strategic positions within international affairs. It was a covert influence, a shrouded entryway through which power attempted quiet conquest, fracturing integrity from within like a festering rot. The realization was a clarion call in Matt's mind, a clear and painful acknowledgement of how precarious the balance of international diplomacy truly was, a realm where the gleaming veneer of ceremony and order concealed sordid games of power and manipulation. The more Matt unearthed, the clearer it became that this lobby was leveraging James's vulnerabilities, leveraging their reach to manipulate decisions, to bend objectives to their will. Anger blazed anew within him, not just at the mess James was in, but at the broader moral corruption these entities spawned, threatening the sanctity of their purpose. The polished surface of the embassy, all marble and glass, seemed now to reflect a more sinister underbelly. A challenge not just to James, but to every notion Matt held of righteousness and fidelity. The grand hall of the British Embassy was abuzz with laughter and clinking glasses as diplomats, dignitaries, and distinguished guests milled about, bathed in the warm glow of ornate chandeliers. The Embassy Gala was the jewel of the social calendar, an event where alliances were forged and influence peddled beneath the genteel veneer of polite conversation. Against this opulent backdrop, Matt Thompson moved with purpose, his mind focused on the task at hand. This was the night he would confront the foreign officer, James Collins, and lay bare the sinister undercurrents that threatened the embassy's integrity. Matt had spent weeks meticulously gathering evidence, piecing together a narrative that would expose James's underhanded dealings. The discovery of coded messages, financial statements that didn't add up, and recordings of hushed conversations had enabled Matt to construct an irrefutable case. But it was more than just a professional obligation. It was a personal crusade against the rot of corruption that had begun to infiltrate the very foundation of the institution he served. As the evening progressed, Matt could feel the weight of the evening pressing onto his shoulders. He weaved through clusters of guests, the fabric of his perfectly tailored suit as taut as his nerves. Once he reached the center of the ballroom, near the grand piano where the music trickled melodiously through the room, he took a deep breath, preparing to peel back the facade of civility that cloaked the gathering. In a deft motion, Matt tapped gently on a champagne glass to capture the room's attention. The tinkling sound carried above the chatter, ushering in a moment of silence filled with anticipation. Faces turned toward him, curiosity piqued at his unorthodox interruption. Pockets of stillness punctuated the crowd as anticipation turned into a tangible force. "Ladies and gentlemen," Matt began, his voice steady but laced with urgency. "I regret to inform you that this evening contains an unscripted element, a revelation that strikes at the heart of this very institution." He glanced toward James, whose composed demeanor masked the turbulent sea beneath. Matt proceeded, detailing how James had used his position to facilitate dealings with a clandestine network, his voice unwavering as he outlined the shadow meetings and veiled transactions. Gasps rippled across the room like a stone tossed into a pond. Each layer of revelation loosed a fresh wave of shock. A once unseen poison had been drawn to the surface, and the air became heavy with the fetid stench of betrayal and scandal. Eyes once glossed with affability now narrowed in suspicion and disbelief. The immediate panic was palpable, whispers and mutterings filling the void left by Matt's declaration. The room crackled with unspoken accusations, collective breaths caught in anticipation of what would come next. The embassy was not merely a victim in these dealings, but was now a potential epicenter of international scandal, its pristine reputation hanging on a precipice. With every move, truth battled with decorum, competing for supremacy in a space where every revelation had the power to ripple well beyond these four walls. The air in the embassy was thick with tension, akin to a brewing storm. The grand hall, usually a host to dignified conversations and delicate champagne glasses clinking in harmony, now buzzed with whispers and furtive glances as the guests processed the shocking exposé that had just unraveled before their eyes. The room's attention was unmistakably clenched by Matt Thompson, the steadfast royal guard, and James Collins, whose audacious plans had just been laid bare. A hush fell as James cleared his throat, poised to explain himself amidst the sea of wide-eyed onlookers. His demeanor, usually marked by a veneer of mystery, now carried an unexpected weight of authority and clarity. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice carrying a gravity that demanded attention. "I understand that what you've just heard may paint me in a light that you perhaps did not expect. But know this, it was all necessary." For a moment, uncertainty flickered in the air, a palpable mix of skepticism and anticipation gripping the crowd. Yet, James continued with a resolve akin to a seasoned performer finally allowed to reveal the grand finale of his act. He detailed his undercover operation, sanctioned discreetly at the highest level, to infiltrate a shadowy network that had been surreptitiously weaving its way through the crannies of international diplomacy. His peculiar demand to Matt had been a part of this elaborate ploy, a calculated maneuver to measure the integrity of those around him and to see if anyone would take the bait, casting suspicion on themselves. As the implications of his words settled in, shock gave way to dawning comprehension. Murmurs of astonishment rippled across the hall like an infectious current. The embassy staff and guests alike were caught in the web of this unexpected truth, their perspectives shifting with every calculated word James offered. What had seemed an egregious display of misconduct had flipped on its axis, becoming a testament to the complex labyrinth of justice. Matt, standing a few feet away, remained a silent pillar of resolve. His stance was one not only of victory over temptation, but one defined by the unyielding principles that had guided him through James's ruse. The subtle nod exchanged between the two men served as an unspoken acknowledgment of their shared ordeal and a silent pact of mutual respect. Slowly, admiration began to bloom within the room, weaving its way through the crowd, transforming suspicion into reverence. James's audacity, coupled with Matt's unwavering moral compass, formed a story that would embed itself into the very fabric of embassy lore. As the evening unfolded, conversation turned from scandal to strategy, from disbelief to understanding, and finally to a surreal sense of satisfaction. These were more than just diplomatic games. They were tests of character, and through their trials, James and Matt had unwittingly resurrected a faith in integrity that resonated deeply with each soul present. In the heart of that embassy, amidst the echo of regal tapestries and the flicker of crystal chandeliers, justice had not only been served, it had been understood, embraced, and ultimately celebrated.